One thing I can't stand is when a general manager puts a shithole team together and then the NFL coach is the one that has to try to put something of a good product out there. Not even including injuries that's happening, not even holdouts that's happening that you're creating and all that stuff because you don't want to pay certain players and whatever the case may be. And you're going to do some trades that I'm probably not going to agree with. And because you think that we need those extra draft picks or whatever the fucking case may be, you hold that fucking bag. Let's get this party started. Dear Legacy, please excuse my balls. Word to Big Bird, word to Big Bird. If you guys never watched my other show, I like to show people there's just a empty red cup of ice. Fill it up with Red Bull. I want y'all thinking that I'm drinking something else, because if I was drinking something else, I would let you know also. But it's late, and I got to record this. I wanted to see what other news is going to come down the pike in preparation for this show. Welcome back as Please Excuse My Balls, brought to you by Dear Legacy Sports. I'm your boy, Kevin B. The Brand, and this is episode number 7. It's win or go home week, y'all. The weekend ended crazy. Right? Crazy, I mean crazy. The last game of week 18 for the NFL came down to kicks. And with just kicks, people are going home. Their season ended just like that. Some people are moving on to go play for a chance to keep playing. And then there comes Black Monday. That's how the weekend ends when it comes to the NFL in week 18. You didn't do what you were supposed to do during the season, or you did just enough to get to where you at right now, to where your season didn't just end, and you're not bringing the trash bags out in the locker rooms to collect your stuff and then handing over playbooks and whatever else you do and get ready for exit interviews. And some of those exit interviews, now that it's Monday morning going into Tuesday, them exit interviews ended with a pink slip. But let's start with the kickoff, y'all. Let's jump into a couple of headlines. Like I said before, the NFL kicked off Black Monday, and a lot of head coaches and coordinators are looking for work in the NFL as we speak today, and there might be more coming down the pike. There's some that's in the playoffs that might just be moving some OCs around, or maybe their ownership is looking to see what some teams are going to do if they're going to move on from their head coach or not, right? Other head news that I have for you guys is Lionel Messi says he won't coach after he's done playing. He wants to own a team. Duh. Who wants the stress of being a coach? I'd rather just own the team and hire and fire the coaches like they're doing in the NFL right now. The Oakland A's were denied trademarks for the naming rights. For those that don't know, the Oakland A's are moving to Vegas, so they tried to get the naming rights for the Vegas A's and the Vegas Athletics and were denied. They now have, I believe it's 3 months to appeal the denial, and we'll see what happens there. In other news in the sports world, pro athletes are having trouble leaving Venezuela or having travel issues with around Venezuela after the operations that happened in the U.S. Hopefully, though, I know the Major League Baseball is heavily affected by this. There's other sports leagues like soccer. There's teams that are playing. There's players that are living out there that are affected also, that are getting ready to gear up for World Cup play. So hopefully the leagues are working with the U.S. to try to get these players to where they need to get to. It's an unfortunate situation. Hopefully not just the athletes themselves, their families are safe and out of harm's way from what's going on down there. With that being said, I'm jumping right into it. We're moving. We're cruising. We're moving along. We're going right into the King of Sports. It's the NFL segment. Headlines for you guys. Myles Garrett did break the season sack record this weekend in the last game of the season. He didn't do 24 like I thought he would, but he did get to 23, thus breaking the record that was held by TJ Watt and Michael Strahan at 22 and a half. It was a little weird how he got it, but it ain't no weirder than how Michael Strahan got his against Brett Favre all those years ago. some are saying, he should throw a couple of dollars to Joe Burrow because it seemed weird even when I watched it. Truth be told, I only watched a highlight of it. I don't. It was about the fourth quarter. It happened in the fourth quarter. I tuned out. There was nothing going on in that game that really kept my intrigue, but there was other things going on also that I wanted to watch instead. But Joe, it seemed like he snapped the ball and Joe literally knew where he was coming from and just tucked down and let him get the sack that way. I mean, whatever. I don't care. He got the record. He got the record. All the 22 and a half didn't happen that way. So who cares how he got it that way? Congratulations to that man. In other craziness, the New York Football Jets, first team, I want to say it's the first team in history to do this because I don't know how this could even happen. When they said it on ESPN this morning and Greeny was going on his rants and everybody else, the Jets ended the season with not one single interception. For those that are tuning in for basketball and other sports, for those that are just here listening to the rants, you can't finish a season with no interceptions. Like, when I heard this, I was like, something got to be wrong. How do you finish? I have interceptions on my records by accident. Like, the ball just falls in your hand. There's duck balls that just pop. You mean to tell me nobody deflected anything? Nobody ran and got an interception? Nothing? Not one time in 17 games did you catch one interception? That is insane in itself. I don't even, like, it's baffling to me. I don't even want to go on a rant. Matter of fact, I don't even want to do headlines right now. I want to go through we're going to switch things up. We're going to switch it up a little bit. If you've been with me, you know I usually go through my headlines. Then we do score rundowns. Let's do the score rundown because the score rundown dictates what happens in a lot of these other headlines that we're going to talk about today. So let's just jump right down to these score rundowns. We're going to start with the Saturday games. So the Bucks did outlast the Panthers like I said they would. I said the Bucks were going to beat the Panthers. They did win 16-14. Thus giving them the division with that win, but that happened on Saturday. What happens on Sunday will dictate who actually really wins the division because of the Bucks winning. In the second game on Saturday, the Seahawks did take care of business against the 49ers. I got this one wrong. Even though I like the Seahawks, I really like the Seahawks. They got the LOB version number 2 going on over there right now. And I'm a big fan as a defensive guy. I'm a big fan of defense. The Seahawks have a great defense over there. I just thought the 49ers were clicking, and maybe it was the whole, when you listen to people talking and all that stuff, it kind of swayed my decision to think that the 49ers were more than what they were. They're a great team. They can make some noise in the playoffs, and maybe I was just rooting for a Cinderella story with the whole get the number 1 seed and play 2 games at home and then stay home for the Super Bowl, maybe that's what drew that call. Maybe I thought McCaffrey would go off and then try to really put himself in that MVP voting conversation higher than where he should be right now. I have him probably 3 or 4 if I had a vote about MVP. We already know where I stand on the MVP race. Drake May is the MVP for this season, but I don't have a vote. So it seems like they'd rather do a Lifetime Achievement Award with that this season and give it to Matthew Stafford, even though all the numbers, besides their one critique of Drake May is, he had an easy schedule. But everything else, he beats Matthew Stafford in. The numbers don't lie. But we'll see how the voters vote, if this is going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award or is there actually going to be an MVP award. Moving on to the Sunday slate of games, the Falcons, which I said was a game of the week because it will dictate who actually wins the division for the Bucks and the Panthers. The Falcons win over the Saints 19-17, thus keeping Baker on his kitchen counter for the offseason. Those that were watching the games, Baker Mayfield was watching the Atlanta Falcons game on his couch with one photo, and then later on he was sitting on his kitchen counter watching the debacle happen with the Falcons beating the Saints 19-17, thus knocking the Bucks out of the playoffs and giving the Panthers the division and heading to the playoffs. It's unfortunate. I think the Bucks could have made some noise in the playoffs, but when you play around all season long and you go 1-7 for the stretch, and then you finally win one to go 2-7 to close out the season after you started at 6-2. Yes, I get it. Injuries was a part of it, but some of it is just you needed to grind a couple games out and you just didn't do it. And it sucks to say. And now you got to sit for the whole offseason, and decisions are going to be made based off of that, right? But I think the Bucks have a good team. They should come back swinging next year. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. I think he is a good fit for that organization. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on, the Browns, when Myles Garrett did get the season sack total, he did also beat the Bengals 20-18. Nothing to write home about there. The Vikings, like I said, was going to happen, beat the Packers 16-3. The Giants, though, I did not see this one happen, which I probably should have seen happening, because this is just what the New York Football Giants do, right? Why not start winning all of a sudden, right? So the Giants beat the Cowboys. They beat them bad, too, 34-17. The Jaguars took care of business and beat down on the Titans 41-7. Going into the playoffs as one of the hottest teams. I don't think anybody, to include myself as a New England Patriot fan, nobody wants to see the Jaguars right now. They're coached well. Trevor Lawrence is playing like the number one overall pick that he was when he came out of Clemson. They went out and got Jacoby Myers as a weapon for him as well. They got a running game, and their defense plays great. Like I think the Jags is definitely going to be a hard out. Them and the Texans, I feel as though it's not going to be slim. It's not going to be an easy thing to knock them out of the playoffs this upcoming season. Speaking of the Texans won over the Colts 38-30. I'm gonna pause right there though, because the Colts, they didn't start Phillip Rivers. They went with the kid out of Notre Dame, Riley. They was actually giving the Texans, granted the Texans didn't start all their players, they had guys out, but they was giving the Texans a little bit of a game. And then Pierce gets ejected out of the game. When Pierce got ejected out of that game, I felt as though it took the sails out of the Colts, because if you was watching that game, Riley just wasn't clicking right anymore. He didn't have a person to go to. He didn't have a chance to go to anybody, unfortunately. And you can see it during the game. Like, he's trying to make something work out of nothing, and it just didn't end up in his favor. And the Texans ended up winning 38-30. Pierce was ejected for bumping a referee. If you considered that a bump. Moving on, the Bills beat down on the Jets. Surprise, surprise, 35-8. The Lions end the season with a win over the Bears, 19-16. The Broncos went over the Chargers to hold on to the number one seed against the Chargers, 19-3. Here's my problem with this one. I'm glad the Broncos took care of business and they won the game, but you talk about not all victories. You know how, like, when you get a moral victory and a loss, there's alarm bells going off in Bronco Nation, and hopefully they fix it by the time they come, because you earn the number one seed, you get a week off, maybe you could work out some of your kinks or whatever. But they look bad. The only scoring touchdown of that game was on a defense. Trey Lance threw an interception that got ran back for a touchdown. But the Broncos couldn't move the ball at all against the Chargers. And mind you, if you go and look at who actually played in that game for the Chargers was playing with second stringers all across the board. Their defensive players were sitting, their offensive players were sitting. So if you're telling me that you could only win 19-3 against a team that's only starting their backups and third stringers, guys that are just trying to earn some playing time, and guys that are being played right now just in case something goes wrong during the playoff run, and you still struggling, you got the number one seed, you earned that. But the Broncos could, depending on who they match up against, they could easily be a one and done. Moving on, the Raiders win their third game of the season over the Chiefs, 14-12. It's so sad to see that the Chiefs can't do anything without Patrick Mahomes. You want to talk about an MVP? Like, that is it right there. You mean to tell me you was actually making you had a bad season and you had an opportunity and a chance to where you could actually make a run for it, and then your quarterback goes down, and you mean to tell me you can't pull out nothing? Granted, you lost your backup quarterback also, but not saying that Gardner Minshew was going to light things up anyway. So, the Chiefs head into the offseason with some work to do, and we don't know when Patrick will be available to come back. You're talking about when the injury happened based off of when the season's going to start. We're looking at maybe missing the first month of the season, which is an extension of the preseason anyway. So as long as you could hold down the fort, not the way you did closing out the season, you should be in a good position. So the Rams win over the Cardinals 37-20. Matthew Stafford throws for 4 touchdowns in that game, putting his name back in the MVP race. I said it earlier. It's more of a, if Matthew Stafford wins the MVP this year, I'm not saying that he's not an MVP caliber type player, but when you're talking about an MVP season, that's and it's not even me being a Patriot fan. That Drake May won the MVP this year. There's not a lifetime achievement award. I understand Matthew Stafford doesn't have much years left, but just because he doesn't have much years left doesn't mean you have to give him an award. Like I don't understand if that does happen. I would say it is somewhat of a robbery. Is it a full robbery? No, but I'm gonna get off of that high horse, and we'll see what the writers and voters decide to do with that. Speaking of my Patriots, they beat up on the Dolphins 38-10. Again, Drake May, it ain't like he lighted anything up, but he did what he was supposed to do. 191 yards, 1 passing touchdown. They rode their horses, and then they pulled their guys when it was necessary. It is what it is. I don't think even if Drake May went out and threw for 5 touchdowns, it still would have had matters in some people's eyes. They made their minds up a long time ago to give it to Matthew Stafford. The Commanders win over the Eagles 24-17. And then the last game of the season, winner take all, Steelers versus the Ravens. What a way to end the NFL season. You're talking about it came down to kickers. It was a great game. I think the Ravens did what they were supposed to do. I would have liked them to have used more of Derrick Henry, but they didn't. But they started off using him heavy, and then they kind of went away from it, allowed the Steelers to get into it. And let's be completely honest, I got to give credit where credit's due. That man Aaron Rodgers, with the little that he had, he made just enough plays to put the Steelers in a position to where they could actually win the game. And it became a seesaw fight. Lamar Jackson was not trying to give it up. He did what needed to be done. And then you watch the Steelers go down and they take the lead 26. They take the lead and they miss the extra point. The moment they missed the extra point with 50 some odd seconds left over, the Ravens just got to get into field goal position, kick a field goal. They win 27-26. We all knew. I'm watching the game like, oh, I told you. I'm getting ready. I'm taking down my notes. Go do my told you so. I knew the Ravens was going to get into the playoffs. I knew the Ravens. And then they do what they were supposed to do. And then on the 4th and 1, Lamar Jackson makes the right play, the right pass at the right time to the tight end, Likely, who comes down with it. He high points it, comes down with it, maintains control. And then you're looking at it, and they just run out the ball. And then they call a timeout, 1 second left. And they're going to put the kick. This rookie kicker has not missed any kicks inside of the 50. So we're like, damn, the Ravens about to go to the playoffs, and we're watching the kick go up. And then the moment it went, I was like, oh shit, he fucking missed it. And just like that, the Ravens on a high, thinking they about to go to the Super Bowl. And the Steelers, you saw it. Aaron Rodgers was dejected on that bench. The Steelers players knew the moment likely came down with that ball, everybody knew what the outcome was going to be. Except the football gods had a different. And when I say football gods, it could be the football gods or it could be God himself came down and put the Steelers in the playoffs. And that I'm not gonna lie to you, that little juju. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, they showed a highlight the following morning of a priest that does the prayers for the team was out on the field in the same exact end zone and was sprinkling holy water in that end zone. And you talking about a kicker that hasn't missed anything inside the 50, and you got a chippy shot to go make to win the game, and you sail it wide right. And when I say wide right, I'm talking about like 2 feet to the right. Like, I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. That's divine intervention. That is the football gods. That is Aaron Rodgers on his last leg. And let me at least play in the playoffs, because he even admitted the last 3 years has been hot garbage on a summer's night for him, right? You got the bad year, injury, bad year. Now he's here. He gets a chance to play for the playoffs, and let's see what they could do in the playoffs. And those were the games. And like I said earlier, those games implicated a lot of stuff. With those games being said, even with the Vegas Raiders winning, they're officially on the clock. That whole organization, right now they're looking for a new head coach. They fired Pete Carroll. And then, not to mention, they got the #1 draft pick. You know, what does that mean for Geno Smith? Geno Smith was Pete Carroll's guy. Tom Brady is leading the quest to finding a new head coach, right? He's going to lean in heavy in the organization to try to turn this thing around. You know, Tom, you missed out on Ben Johnson. You missed out on trying to get Matthew Stafford. Now you get the #1 pick in the draft. You have a young team. You need a new head coach. And for me, if you're going out there to go find a new head coach, and if you are going to go draft a Mendoza kid, or maybe the kid out of Oregon, if that's what the direction you're going with quarterback, because you have Alshon Jeffrey, you have the Brock Bowers, I would say you have some talent there. Now, watching the few games that I watched with the Raiders, it was nothing to write home about. I can't really see a quarterback is going to change that much for you guys. Maybe bringing a Mendoza and a new head coach might get you a couple more wins, but you still need help on defense. You still need help on the offensive line. I heard some pundits talking about, maybe trading out of the #1 and going and get more picks to build around Alshon Jeffrey and Bowers and some of the talents that you do have, and you stick with Geno Smith for another year. But I mean, a talent of a Mendoza doesn't come around all too often. Or maybe you have your eyes set on Archie Manning, but you're not guaranteed another top pick. So we'll see how Tom Brady and that organization handles this situation. Speaking of draft picks, the draft order is kind of already set right now. It's it is set. The only parts that's not set are the teams that are playing in the playoffs right now. As they start to lose, they'll get slotted into their positions based off of where they stand in terms of if they even have a pick, right? So the Raiders are going to pick #1, the Jets at #2, Cardinals pick 3, Titans will pick 4, the Giants 5, Browns 6, Commanders 7, Saints 8, Chiefs 9, Bengals 10, Dolphins 11, the Cowboys 12, Rams by way of Atlanta will pick 13, the Ravens will pick 14, the Bucks will pick 15, and then the Jets get another pick from Indiana at 16, the Lions at 17, the Vikings at 18, and the rest of the teams are in the playoffs. Like I said, as they lose, they'll slide into their positioning. Again, things that happen at the end of week 18, like I said, create Black Monday. Black Monday already kicked off strong. We already knew there was 2 positions that needed to be filled, with the Giants and the Titans firing their coaches in the middle of the season. But 5 more vacancies did come up with the Cardinals, Raiders, and Browns. We knew that was going to happen. Falcons fired Raheem Morris to me and to others, that's kind of a shocker. I think they finished off the season very strong, based off of what they had going on in the season. They tried to bring out their number one draft pick, Michael Penix, but he couldn't stay healthy on the field, so you kept doing the seesaw back and forth with him and Kirk Cousins. I'm a Kirk Cousins guy. I like Kirk Cousins. I think he is a good fit for a young team like that as a bridge quarterback. Um, I think the Falcons just missed on Michael Penix Jr. I hate to say that he's fairly young in numbers wise. He's fairly young, but in NFL he's kind of old. He came into the league with injury problems, with bad knees and all that, and he just kept getting injured also. And today, the Ravens did part ways with John Harbaugh after, 18 seasons? 18, 19 seasons? I think he's 18 seasons and Mike Tomlin was 19 seasons. I told you guys, the one that lost that game between the Ravens and the Steelers, it wasn't just for the division. I feel as though that head coach was going to be mutually part. They've been in these organizations for 18, 19 years. This is the longest tenured coaches behind only Bill Belichick, who did 21 years in New England. After a while, it's not saying that John Harbaugh is a bad coach. It's not saying that Mike Tomlin's a bad coach. Mike Tomlin still has his job. I'm just saying in general, sometimes you just need change. Not that you're doing anything wrong. Sometimes the voices get stale. It's been weird up in Baltimore for a while between, John will praise Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, who knows? Maybe he got tired of John. When you lose in the playoffs or don't get into the playoffs for multiple years in a row in heartbreaking fashion, maybe that gets to you. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's John's fault. We could run down what happened in these last few years, a drop pass, a fumble on the 1 yard line, and now a kick. That's 3 years in a row where it's not John's fault. And I can't even say it's Lamar's fault. But Lamar has been battling a lot of injuries, and when he's out, that team is not the same. And when you come back, you got to put the cape on and you got to hope and pray. And then you get in situations like this where this happens, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Don't cry for John Harbaugh, Argentina, because he already his agent has told Shefty that at least 7 teams have reached out to him already, which I'm surprised it's only 7. You get a caliber of John Harbaugh that comes out onto the market, you call him. Even if you're a team there's the teams that's in the playoffs right now, they're pretty much supplanted. I don't see why they would need any type of coaching change. Your Broncos, no. Steelers, maybe they want to change if they lose this first round. If they don't lose, maybe Mike Tomlin goes in for another season for 20, right? Jaguars, they're good. The Bills, they might be watching this John Harbaugh situation. Sean McDermott I told y'all last week, I think Sean McDermott's a great coach, but I think it might be time for a change inside Buffalo. And he's another one. The Bills want to move on because they lose in the first round to the Jaguars, which I'll keep my thoughts for later on. If they lose in the first round, I could see them making a change from Sean McDermott and looking at a potential John Harbaugh or some of these other OCs or something that could come in. Maybe they go after Bill Daboll, Brian Daboll, that's out there that got fired from the Giants, who paired very well with Josh Allen, and bring him in as the head coach. You never know how these organizations are going to do things. The Panthers are in the playoffs. Are they really solidified at their coaching position? Will the Eagles are not the Eagles? I think when you look at the teams that's in the playoffs, you're pretty good there. But like the Bills is one to watch, definitely for sure. I think the Steelers, you would want to watch that situation also. I think those are 2 teams, if you lose in the first round in the wild card weekend this weekend, I think you could see John Harbaugh sliding into one of these organizations. And let's be completely honest, there's some organizations that are still out here that I like the Falcons' job. I think you have great young players. You have a good bridge quarterback for if you want to go out there and go find you some. I mean, where are you picking right now? Falcons, Falcons, Falcons. Oh boy, you don't even got your first round because that's going to the Rams. Woo. Yeah, you gotta stay put with that bridge quarterback of yours for a while. But I again, if I'm sitting here, if I was a head coach and I'm looking at these vacancies right now, not concluding the Bills or the Steelers, um, because the Bills situation, you have Josh Allen, you play in the AFC East, and yeah, the Patriots are back on a rise, but you only have to worry about the Patriots. You don't have to worry about the Giants. You don't have to worry about Miami right now. But if I'm looking at the situation, the Ravens, you have Lamar Jackson, you have a couple of players. You could come in there and it's a plug and play situation where you could put some things around that team and maybe a new philosophy could get you over that edge, right? I like the Falcons, like I was saying earlier. You have London, you have a bridge quarterback, bare minimum. If you want to move on from Penix, you have the Kyle Pitts. You're gonna have to re-sign him. You have guys on defense like that. That's why the firing of Raheem Morris is kind of weird to me. I would have held on to him. You finished the season 7-9, tied for first place in your division, in a division that came down to me winning my game, knocked out the Bucks and let Carolina win, and we're all tied at the same exact record. So I could have easily had been in the playoffs also if I had a tiebreaker. You know what I mean? So that's a weird one to me. The Giants, I like their quarterback. I like their running back also, but he got hurt, so we don't know how he'll come back looking next season. For me, those are the jobs I'm mostly looking at. The Raiders, too much work. Cardinals, oh my God. Browns, you got a great defense. You got Shador Sanders. That could be another situation that you're walking into where like it could be a philosophy type situation. You're gonna have to deal with this whole quarterback carousel thing you got going on over there, but that's on ownership. They're gonna have to eat some of that dead money from Deshaun Watson, but you've been eating that money anyways. You might as well just move on. But yeah, so other people that are looking for work right now, the Lions offensive coordinator is out. The Cowboys let go of their defensive coordinator, which they should have. Both the Commanders' offensive and defensive coordinators are out. This is a name to keep an eye out for. Cliff Kingsbury is out as the Commanders, and I feel as though the moment he was released, his name became top of that list behind John Harbaugh to become a head coaching candidate for one of these vacancies. Speaking of the Falcons, also they just restructured Kirk Cousins' deal for salary cap reasons, and to be honest, let's be completely honest. You don't know what you got going on with Michael Penix Jr. You don't have your number one pick for this year. I think restructuring Kirk Cousins gives you another year to figure it out as you go back into the pool and try to find you a new head coach. Kevin Stefanski, who was fired from the Browns, has been linked to the Falcons job. He was with Kirk Cousins when Kirk Cousins had some great years up in Minnesota. Why not pair the two back together? I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. I don't like what he did. I don't like his way of doing things this past year with the Cleveland Browns situation. But I mean, he was in a weird situation. You got Deshaun Watson. You drafted the kid out of Oregon, Dylan Gabriel. Then you go and get Shador Sanders. Yeah, now you're trying to play the quarterback carousel. Who else was on that team also that was playing quarterback before you went to Dylan Gabriel? Then you finally went to Shador Sanders. It was a mess, but I think a veteran quarterback like a Kirk Cousins who knows Kevin Stefanski, knows that playbook, and with the type of weapons that's out there in the Atlanta Falcons, with London on the outside, you have a good running game with B.J. Robinson. Like, Kevin Stefanski could walk in there and take that division next season. Tampa's going to have something to say about it. Carolina will linger around, but I could easily see the Falcons being a playoff team next season because of the division that they play in. I have a thing here where I'm talking about who should be out. I'm not a component of looking for people to get fired, but some things just call for you to be fired, right? The Jets. Why are you holding on to Aaron Glenn? I'm sorry. I'm watching Raheem Morris get fired, but Aaron Glenn gets to keep his job. Like, what? The team literally did not do. They have no interceptions, and you're a defensive minded guy, and your team couldn't get one interception. I literally think the team quit on you on that last month of the year. The offense looked horrible. Everything in the Jets organization was hot garbage on a summer's night. But yeah, you get to keep your job. You get to keep your job and still have say of what's going on that's going to dictate the next few years of this organization with your draft picks. You have salary. You have, I think you're like number 2 in free and money that you can spend during free agency. That's who you're going to put in charge. Listen, I am not a component for people losing their job. That is not what I'm trying to say. But some people, I'm going to leave it at that. You guys want to stick with him? Let's see what he does this next year. Another person that I feel as though should be out. You fire your general manager, Mike McDaniel in Miami. I feel as though you should be out the door also. I'm giving you benefit of the doubt. The team wasn't constructed as best as it possibly can, but yeah. So we'll see what you do in this next year. Another person that I'm looking for, and they just came out and said that they're holding on to him back next year because the quarterback went out and said that he wanted him back, was Zach Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think you guys are wasting Joe Burrow's great years. Joe Burrow is being wasted in Cincinnati, and this is a pairing thing. This is an organizational thing. The general manager is not doing his job by putting a good team together. Get a damn offensive line to block for Joe Burrow so he could actually have a chance. Joe Burrow and Chase is being wasted right now. If I'm Joe Burrow, I want out. I'm not fighting for no head coach. I want you to trade me. I want to play and win. I don't want to keep playing this game, going back and forth like, will I, can I, should I? I'm running for my life. I'm going to stop right there. Leave it at that. Those are the 3 people that I feel as though should be out the door. We'll see what happens next year. So all that happened this past weekend. Other implications that this had. I told you what I thought the seedings was going to be. I was a little off, but some of it I knew I would be off on. Let's be completely honest. I knew the Chargers was not gonna play all their guys. Bare minimum, I knew they was gonna play Justin Herbert. So I knew the chances of the Chargers going in there to beat the Broncos in Mile High was a slim chance. Some of the stuff I did see happening. So the AFC, the final standings is the Broncos took the number 1 seed and they get the bye. The Patriots stayed at number 2. The Jaguars took number 3. The Steelers took 4. The Texans took number 5. The Bills number 6, and the Chargers at 7. And the NFC side, obviously I thought the 49ers was gonna take that last game to take the number 1 seed, but the Seahawks had other plans in mind, and they earned theirs. So they take the number 1 seed and the bye week. The Bears stay at number 2, even with a loss because the Eagles lost also. So the Eagles stay at number 3. The Panthers got into the playoffs at number 4, which I told you what happened. I told you the Bucs was gonna win the game, but then the Falcons was gonna win and put the Panthers in the playoffs. The Rams took number 5. The 49ers took 6, and the Packers was already locked in at 7, but for the past 2 weeks. So games of the week, there's only 6. There's only 6 games. It's that time of the season. You win and you go home. Win or go home. That's what it is. You win, you play another week. You lose, you go home. Exit, trash bags, locker room, exit strategy meetings. Throw everything in your trash bag. Give me my playbook. Maybe I'll see you next season. So here's the games. We're going to start off on Saturday on Fox at 4:30 p.m. The Rams travel to the Carolina Panthers. And late that night on via Prime Video streaming, the Packers travel to the Bears. I believe in another rematch. The Bears won last time in OT. I'm going to tell you my picks later, but one thing that I kept going back and forth on my picks, and by the time I get to picks later, I'll make my final decision because there's a lot here that it's hard to say who. I know the Packers are favored by 1.5 points, so they're pretty much saying it's a coin flip, which I feel the same way. But yeah, we'll talk about it more when we do our picks later on. The Sunday games, you got the on CBS at 1 p.m. the Bills travel to the Jaguars. On Fox at 4:30 p.m. the 49ers go to the Eagles. And in the late game, NBC and Peacock, the Chargers travel to New England Patriots. And then Monday night, you finish it off with the Texans going up to the Steelers via ESPN at 8:15 p.m. With that being said, I want to give you my final top 5 teams for the NFL. Coming out of week 18, going into the playoffs. No honorable mentions. At number 5, I'm coming in with the Texans. I think the Texans is a solid team. They play great defense. They coach very well. As long as CJ Stroud could maintain doing his thing, I see the Texans being a very hard out, like I said earlier, of the top of the show. At number 4, I have the Jaguars, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another team that I said is going to be a hard out in this playoffs. The way Trevor Lawrence is playing, it's igniting something into that team that they all believe that, and a team like that is a scary team. So watch out for the Jaguars in the playoffs. At number 3, I'm slotting them at 3. Even though I think they're the most complete team in the NFL in all phases, coaching from heads up and down, it's the Los Angeles Rams. I have them in at number 3. At number 2, I got the New England Patriots. It's hard for me to not have them there. I know some would say, well, the Broncos took the number 1. I watched the Broncos play the last couple of weeks, and I don't feel as though they're a top 5 team in the NFL. They got the number 1 pick by default, in my opinion. Tiebreaker. My eyes tell me that they are not that number 1 team. In the AFC. Hell, I could even have put the Jaguars in at the number 1 team in the AFC. But the Patriots are the number 2 teams, so they locked in at the number 2 of top 5 teams. And then at number 1, I have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are playing their best football right now. Like I said, it looks like they got the LOB Part 2. For those that don't know what that means, the Legion of Boom from back in the day when they was winning with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. With that, the Seahawks at number 1, it'll be hard for you to go in there and beat them. There's only a few teams that I could see going in there and beating the Seahawks with that defense. As long as Sam Darnold is this version of Sam Darnold, the Minnesota Vikings Sam Darnold, the Seattle Seahawks Sam Darnold, not the Jets Sam Darnold. As long as he's doing that, the Seahawks should, even though I still got the Rams representing in the Super Bowl, they should make their way to the Super Bowl. Yeah, so that's my top 5 teams. Going into the playoffs, my top 5 teams. Seahawks number 1, Patriots number 2, Rams number 3, Jaguars 4, and the Texans at 5. I'm still sticking with my Super Bowl picks with the Rams versus the Patriots. I like those picks. I like the pathway that both these teams would have to get to the Super Bowl. I like a lot. I think the Rams will be in a little bit of a trouble because they would have to travel to Seattle, barring any upsets. Now, I have a lot of upsets happening, but it all depends on what happens in that Bears-Packers game. If the Packers could upset the Bears, then they'd be the ones going to Seattle, and it opens up the door for the Rams. But you would still potentially have to face the Seahawks at home, because even if the Packers have to go up there, it'd still be a hard press to think that the Packers would go to Seattle and win that one. And again, I like the pathway that the Patriots have also. I think if the Bills go into Jacksonville and upset the Jacksonville, they would be the ones heading up to Denver. Could also easily be the Texans going up to Denver and then us playing the Jaguars. That'd be a tough out for the Patriots if they end up with the Jaguars, which, I mean, you got to play the best to get to the Super Bowl, right? We'll see what happens. Two young quarterback studs going at it. My edge would go to Vrabel. I think it would come down to coaching and preparation. And I would pick, and this is not a Patriot thing, me being a fan type thing. I just think that's where the edge would be. You're talking about, I feel as though the two quarterbacks will cancel each other out. I think the defenses cancel each other out. I think at wide receiver, Jacoby Myers and Stephon Diggs will cancel each other out because they both show up big. I like our tight ends more. So that's an X factor there. And then it comes down to coaching. I think Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel would win that matchup against their counterparts. So that's how I feel about that. That's why I'm picking the Super Bowl to be the Rams Patriots. And until they lose, that's going to be my picks. Moving on. Boom. Let's go behind the lines real quick. TGL is back live in swing, guys. You can watch all the matchups on ESPN. For those that don't know, the TGL is an indoor golf league that's played by teams, started by Tiger Woods himself and Rory McIlroy. And it's actually pretty cool. They play indoors. It's a simulation type course situation with a massive screen, and they play for points. There's crowds indoors. It's a whole stadium setup type situation. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it streams on. It plays on, not streams. It streams and plays on ESPN. In other segments of Beyond the Lines, tennis 2026 season is about to be in full swing. Soon, Taylor Fritz and Coco Gauff leading the Americans as a top ranks as we await the official 2026 world rankings. Let's see what the Americans could do in this upcoming season. That's all I got for you guys for Beyond the Lines right now. Both the inside Beyond the Lines, tennis didn't really start yet. Golf didn't really start yet. We got a couple months before those go into full swing. So we're just going to jump right into Campus Legends right now. Campus Legends, where we talk college sports, football, and basketball. Congratulations to Montana State, who won the FCS championship over Illinois State, 35-34 in an overtime thriller. That was actually a pretty cool watch. These are the teams that don't really get a lot of the exposure like the FBS teams. It was good to see teams like this battle it out and actually be competitive and go blow for blow. Montana State just happened to win it in overtime, 35-34. Stories that I reported last time, it has to go with the college football playoffs. 2 out of the 6 assistant coaches are allowed to go back to coach for the Ole Miss in the next round of the playoffs. OC and running back coach will be heading back to Ole Miss to coach the team in the next round. The football portal opened up. A lot of players are moving. A lot of players are still talking with some schools. The number 1 QB in the transfer portal, Sorsby, has committed to Texas Tech. If you're watching these portal, how these kids are moving around, there's kids that are gonna change some programs around. Some kids are changing programs by leaving. It changes those programs around, and we'll see how they're able to fill those kids' shoes. Draft declarations, now that the NFL season's over, college football season is almost over in itself. Kids are starting to declare for the draft. A top wide receiver out of Ohio State has declared for the draft earlier today, and more will start to come out as the dust starts to settle. I haven't talked about them yet, but the NCAA men's basketball and women's basketball is halfway through. I have caught a few of the men's side. I've caught a lot of the women's side games. If you know me, I like women's basketball, college basketball a whole lot more than the men's. The men's, I get excited during March Madness time for them. The women's, I think I'm not gonna say way more competitive. It's just I just like it a whole lot more. It's not a bunch of like yeah. Anyways, so there's in the men's side, there's still 5 teams still undefeated in the top 25. Number 1 Arizona, number 2 Michigan, number 3 Iowa, number 10, number 3 Iowa State. I'm sorry. Iowa State's number 3 undefeated. Number 10 Nebraska and number 11 Vanderbilt are all undefeated teams in men's basketball, and a bunch of teams are like one-loss teams like a Duke and stuff like that, and you got a couple teams that are two losses on the season halfway through this. That's pretty cool. On the women's side, it's a deep field of the top 25. The 4 teams are still undefeated. My number 1 UConn girls are undefeated. Number 2 Texas is undefeated. Number 7 Vanderbilt is undefeated. And number 17 Texas Tech is still undefeated. And speaking of win or go home, it's tonight. Number 10 Miami will face number 6 Ole Miss on ESPN at 7:30 p.m. for a chance to play for the national championship. And then on tomorrow night, number 5 Oregon will face number 1 Indiana for a chance to play for the national championship. Just like in the NFL, this week is crazy. From tonight until Monday, all the games matter. You lose, your season's over. You win, you get to play another week. And for the college guys, you get to play for the national championship. One more week, and you get to say that you're either a runner-up or a national champion. My picks didn't really change much. I almost got swayed a little bit, but by the time I get down there and I do my picks, I'll let you know where I still stand. On ice, let's go to the segment on ice. Like I told you guys, I don't know hockey, guys, but I could talk Bruins. I could give you standings and all that other good stuff. I'm not really going to dive too much into this. The Bruins are 22-18-2 on the season, 3 points out of the last place for the wild card spot. They have their rivalry match coming up against the New York Rangers this Saturday, January 10th at 1 p.m. on ABC for those that are paying attention to that. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm probably going to skip on ice a lot of times every week, especially when there's a lot going on. I slid them in there because there's less football talk this week because we're in playoff mode. But yeah, the Bruins, they're doing okay, I guess. They're above 500. Yeah. That's all I got for on ice. Let's jump right into Court Vision. Court Vision, NBA and WNBA. Headlines. We got trade deadline is a month away. Teams at the top are looking to solidify where they're at and really make a playoff push, while some at the bottom, they either going to be sellers or looking to maybe, and when I say at the bottom, like if you're at the 11th, 12th seed, a couple games out, maybe you're not selling. Maybe you try to go get that one piece to get you into the play-in, and maybe you could make some noise in that play-in, or maybe you're just like, yeah, it's not even worth it. Let me protect my assets and just move on and go grab some more assets. With that being said, also it was announced that Trae Young's agent and organization, the Atlanta Hawks, are working on some trade options to move Trae Young. Is no surprise there. We all know that the Atlanta Hawks have been teetering for years. Trae Young has been going in and out of the lineup. I think he's only played 11 games this season or whatever. Trae Young is an amazing talent. When he's healthy and ready to go, I think someone of his caliber can change the dynamics of an organization. It just because it didn't work in Atlanta doesn't mean it won't work somewhere else, right? It's all in how you reinvent yourself when you go back to this next organization. So we'll see what happens. There's about a month left with trade before the before the trade deadline comes along. In other news, the Unrivaled League kicked off this past week. For those that don't know, it's a 3-on-3. It's a 3-on-3 league of WNBA players who created teams. I believe there's like 6 teams of them. Could be 8, maybe. Don't make me lie to you guys. I've only caught a few of these games. I think it's cool what they're doing. I love seeing like when their season's over, they don't have to go overseas to play ball, and we could still enjoy some of our favorite WNBA players. But hopefully this is not the only way we're going to see our favorite WNBA players. Right now, Today's the 6th. It's 3 days away before the current CBA for the WNBA comes to an end. I'm nervous because I haven't heard anything come since the last report that we had that they're so far apart from each other, and I hope they could come to some type of a resolution to keep the season on track. I think they had an amazing season this past year. They've been building towards this situation, and they got the young stars that came in last season. They got so many storylines, and I just want to see great ball. The WNBA, they play some great ball. I hope that we don't slow down the momentum that we have going on in the WNBA, so we could bring on more viewers. That way we could bring on more media deals. And when I say we because I am a fan of the WNBA. I love the product that's on the court right now. I love it. I don't want to see them lose the momentum. I think the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark phenomenon coming into this year kind of threw them off for a little bit of a loop. It's almost as if they wasn't fully prepared for the magnitude that was about to come in on them. And I think it's fine. Now we know. Let's put a deal together where it's fair as it possibly could be. Because somebody who does business deals, nobody wins at the business in a negotiation. You just got to get the best deal that you could possibly get for both sides of the party. And I would hate to see the momentum get lost over the CBA. Moving on. My boy JB, I went on a rant last week about how JB got snubbed for Eastern Conference Player of the Month. And again, like I said, I am a Brunson fan. I know a lot of people think that I'm a hater. I am Boston through and through. So naturally, I don't like New York teams. But my eyes will tell me what's good is good. You know, I like the New York Knicks. I think they, and I've been saying, I think they're the best team in the East until Jason Tatum comes back. Detroit is trying to say otherwise also. I like that young team out there, but I think the New York Knicks have good experience. They have more experience, and as long as you have Brunson that could close out in the fourth, that's a scary thing, especially if you let them linger around. And for them lingering around is 17 or less is lingering around for them. But JB went on live and said, you know, how he felt about being snubbed for Eastern Conference Player of the Year, and he feels though he's one of the best two-way players. I agree. Top 5 in the league, two-way player in the league, period. This is not me being a Boston fan. This is what my eyes tell me. That man plays on both sides of the ball every single night. And then he just went out there and dropped 50 points against the Clippers and held Kawhi Leonard to 22 points. But he's not your Eastern Conference Player of the Month. He's not in the talks for the MVP of the MVP. Only us here in Boston are telling him is letting him know he's playing MVP caliber season. You're averaging, I think his average went down by like 0.02%. I think he's like 29.8 now. But whatever. I guess they'll hold that against him. But in any event, shout out to JB and the whole crew out there for doing what you do night in and night out. And now, no longer in the third place in the Eastern Conference. We're in the second place of the Eastern Conference with 3 games behind Detroit. I try to tell y'all, stop playing with these Boston Celtics. Y'all left us for dead, and here we come. That's when we play our best. Don't y'all know that? Don't leave us for dead. Put the expectations high. When you put the expectations high, then we play with our food. But when you leave us for dead, this is what you get. This is what you get. And Jason Tatum's coming back. That's the worst part. We don't even got to rush Jason Tatum right now. The way JB's playing, don't rush JT. The way your brother JB's playing right now, you ain't got to rush. I know you itching to come and play, but you ain't got to rush. Ramp up in the background. Let them keep sleeping on us. Let them keep hating on us. But with that being said, let's run down these standings. Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons. I'm about to say Tigers. That's baseball, boy. The Detroit Pistons are 27-9 at number 1. The Celtics at number 2 at 23-12. The Knicks are at number 3, 23-13. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. And I was at one of the games of this losing streak. I finally got to attend a game in the New York Knicks Garden. You know, we call the Garden out here. They call themselves the original Garden. Whatever. I ain't gonna hold y'all, guys. It was a cool ass fucking experience. It was a great game. The seats were amazing. Shout out to my wife for that one. My first experience inside the Knicks building was actually pretty cool. So cool that it kind of annoyed me a little bit, because it was like I went into fan mode and I was like, yo, I'm in the Garden. And then my wife set it up where I was able to get on the court. I got pictures of me on the Garden. So now I have been on the Garden courts in both New York and in Boston. The Boston one was a little bit better because I got the confetti coming down on me after we won the championship. But it was still cool to be inside the mecca of basketball. I'll give credit where credit's due. That is the mecca of basketball. And to be able to be on that court, and then I was able to shoot free throws afterwards. I ain't gonna hold y'all. I airballed the fuck out of the first one, and I tried to take a second one, and I just missed it. But it's harder than it looks, guys. And I'm typically pretty good at free throws. I went up there, I did my dribble, I bent my knees, I looked like I knew what I was doing, and I put it up, and then it said it was in line too, and I'm watching. I was like, oh shit, I just embarrassed the fuck out myself. That shit cool felt like a whole foot in front of the hoop. But shout out to the New York Knicks organization. Shout out to my mans that hooked us up with the passes to get on the court after the game. You didn't have to do that for us. You hooked up my wife with that one. And shout out to the wife for giving my first experience inside the Garden. And then most especially, it was in a time where I got to see VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. I'm a big VJ Edgecombe fan. I'm scared of what those two are going to do in the near future, because watching them two play together, and they still got Joel Embiid and I wanted to call him Podcast P. Well, Podcast P was looking good also in that game. The 76ers could do some damage so long as they stay healthy. So I was excited to see them go in there and beat the Knicks. So it made my whole experience great inside the Garden. I got that whole I got great seats. Damn near courtside. I got to see J.R. Smith, Stephon Marbury. I got to go on the court. It was so amazing, and they lost, so it was even better. And then with that loss, the next night, my Celtics took over number 2 slot, so it was amazing all around. So let's get back to the rankings. At number 6, the Heat are at 20-16. And number 7, the Cavs are at 21-17. Number 8, the Magic are at 20-17. The Bulls are at number 9 at 17-19, and the Hawks are at number 10, 17-21. Looking to trade, like I said, it could be for better, it could be for worse. We don't know how that all turns out. Normally, when Trey's out, the Hawks seem to play a little bit better. So maybe it is for the better. Especially you don't know what you're gonna get for it, right? We'll see if this trade even happens, because the contract that Trey has, the injury situation, he's only played in 11 games this season. Yes, he's an amazing talent, but where does he fit? What are you giving up for him, especially with that contract? What do you get back for him also, right? So we'll see what happens. The Bucks are 1 game outside of 10 at 16-20. So this could be the situation that catapults the Bucks into the play-in situation. Going on to the Western Conference, the number 1 team out there is still the Oklahoma City Thunder at 30-7. Even though they're 6-6 in their last 12, they got trounced by the Hornets. I woke up and I saw that highlight to that one, and I was like, what? I thought it was a typo, to be honest, when I saw it, because of how bad the loss was. I think it was like 127 to 90 to like 90 something or something like that. It was a pretty bad beatdown. It happens. I'm not saying that one loss is, they're 6-6 over the last 12, but I mean, they're still 30-7. Let's be completely honest. It ain't like the sky's falling. They're still the number one team in the West. They're still the team to beat in the NBA, period. Not just in the West. They're the team to beat. It was a bad night. They had a couple of losses. Who cares, right? It's an 82 game season. The only thing that's in jeopardy right now is their trying to get the record of 73-9 that was set by the Warriors a few years back. 30-7 with 45 games left in the season. You can only lose 2 games, and you play in the West, and then you're gonna get your best shot from everybody every night that you play them. So it's hard to see them actually getting this. But I mean, I've seen the Cavs go on 15, 20 plus game winning streaks twice last season. So who knows? Maybe it could still happen. I doubt it, but who cares about the record? Just prepare yourself and keep stacking up the wins to give yourself the overall number one when it's time to play in these playoffs. The Spurs are in at number 2, 25-10. The Nuggets are at 3 at 24-12. The Rockets are in at 4 at 22-11, and the Lakers are in at 5 at 22-11. The Timberwolves at 6 at 23-13. The Suns are at 7 at 21-15. The Warriors are at 7 at 19-18. Did you guys see Steve Kerr going off the other day? The thing that's funny about it is when you see people going off and the people holding them back, why are we holding them back? We all know nobody's going to fight. Like, especially a coach, especially somebody of a good caliber as Steve Kerr is. He's going to shout. He's going to yell. He already got the tech. He already got ejected. So you might as well let him walk over there and talk to that man that he wants to talk to. He ain't going to fight him. Come on. That's not Steve Kerr. He's an upstanding citizen. The Blazers are in at number 9 at 17-20, and the Grizzlies are in at 10 at 15-20. That's what I got for the standings right now for the NBA. The NBA, we're really going to start breaking you guys down here in a few more. Let's see. The Super Bowl is in Santa Clara on February 8th. After February 8th, we're all NBA at that point. That's February, March, April, May, June. In the playoffs. What up? Because I'm not going to start talking football again until the draft starts and free agency, but I'm just going to be giving you highlights. We're going to be full dialed in on the NBA at that point. All right, so let's go to the lineup with my weekly picks and predictions. I tell you all the time, I still haven't started yet, guys. I apologize for that. I will start doing, once my schedule allows me to do it, I'll start doing daily picks for IG when it comes to the NBA. As far as the NCAA football, the matchups is still number 10, Miami at number 6, Ole Miss. I think I'm still gonna say Miami upsets Ole Miss, but I do like the fact that the OC is coming back. It's just too much for that front seven of Miami. I think will just be a little bit too much for Ole Miss. I could be completely wrong, and this Ole Miss thing just keeps on riding, which will be crazy in itself, because that's why Lane Kiffin decided to leave. He didn't think that he was gonna win a national championship at Ole Miss, so that's why he wanted to go to LSU. It's crazy, and they're on a run to possibly be in a national championship. But I'm going with Miami on this one. Indiana versus Oregon the following day on Friday. I still have Indiana winning that game. Thus setting up a national championship game. Number 10 Miami versus number 1 Indiana. If it happens, I'll give you my picks then. NFL week 18, I went 10-6 overall. So that gives me a record of 98-39. That's not bad. I be knowing a little something. So for the Saturday games to kick off wild card weekend, give me the Rams over the Panthers. I know the Panthers beat the Rams before, but that shit ain't happening again. Let's be completely honest. If it does, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if that happens again. But give me the Rams over the Panthers. Give me the Packers over the Bears. I kept going back and forth about it, and I'm sitting still looking at this. I think Christian Watson and Jordan Love will be too much for the Bears, who, yes, the Bears get a lot of takeaways, but I just think this is Jordan Love's moment, and they barely made the playoffs. I think Jordan Love understands what's going on. I think they'll come in there prepared and ready to go. So yeah, give me the Packers over the Bears. Am I still sticking with that? Yeah. I'm not second guessing. Give me the Packers over the Bears. Give me for the Jags-Bills game, give me the Jaguars over the Bills. Honestly, I know the Bills are favored by 3 points. Last night, if that's what was that what it was? Hold on, I'm gonna tell y'all right now. They are favored. Buffalo's favored by a point and a half. So they saying it's a coin toss. Me personally, I don't think it's gonna be that close. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars win by 2 touchdowns. I think it's gonna be. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are gonna win by 2, if not more, touchdowns against Buffalo. Josh is gonna try to put that cape on, but it ain't gonna be enough. And I also think it cost Sean McDermott his job, and he becomes the second big name on this coaching pool cycle, and the Bills become a favorable job that people was gonna want. To include Brian Daboll. Yeah, so give me the Jaguars over the Bills. I'm taking the 49ers over the Eagles. I keep going back and forth about this one. I don't. Yeah, I'm sticking with it. 49ers over the Eagles. Patriots over the Chargers. Monday night, give me the Texans over the Steelers. And then the Aaron Rodgers run, and potentially, possibly another coach being let go also in Mike Tomlin. Unless there's a plan that he could sell to that organization that's going to make them still stick with him for this 20th season, which even if he stays there, I don't see why not. I think, like John Harbaugh, I think they're great coaches. I think they it just might be time for them to go to a different organization. And that's my peaks for that. That's my peaks. That's my picks for all the matchups happening Thursday tonight through the week, through Monday night. By the time I'm talking with you guys, there's gonna be a whole lot less teams playing football. So to recap, I got Miami over Ole Miss, Indiana over Oregon. I got the Rams over the Panthers, the Packers over the Bears, the Jaguars over the Bills, the 49ers over the Eagles, the Patriots over the Chargers, and the Texans over the Steelers. With that being said, let's go to the legacy moment and then the final word. 2 rants for you guys today. First one I'm going to start off with is, let's go to this one. The situation that happened in the Colts game this past weekend, where they're not playing for anything. They're playing for pride. They're going against the Texans. The Texans wasn't even starting all their guys, and then they was actually putting something together and giving the Texans a game, right? And it wouldn't have changed anything for the Texans. It wouldn't have changed anything for the Colts. The Colts are out, right? And thank God nobody's losing their jobs over anything. But the unfortunate part is the referees. Let me start this by saying the referees have a hard enough job as it is. I will never take that away. I tried refereeing little games here or there. You can't see everything. You're going to miss some things. I get that. And sometimes it costs people games that end up costing people their jobs, right? But Pierce goes for a catch. He feels as though he was pushed out of bounds and didn't go out of bounds, and it should have held up for a touchdown. He goes to go have a conversation with the referee, and while he's talking with the referee, hands up like I am right now, his arm brushes, and I'm not even exaggerating, his arm brushes against this referee. And the referee decided in that moment he was bigger than the game. He was bigger than those 53 men that are out there playing for the Indianapolis Colts. He was bigger than the coach. He was bigger than the two organizations that I was playing. That's how I feel about that situation. Because he throws a flag and ejects Pierce. I get it. You're not supposed to touch the referees. You're not supposed to accost the referees, which you shouldn't. But that man did not push him. That man didn't touch him. That man didn't do nothing with no ill intent. And you got in your feelings. Maybe he said some expletives that we did not hear. I'd rather you had came out and said that's what happened. But to say that that man pushed you and that's why you threw the flag and ejected him out the game, thus costing the Colts a game. Again, nothing was going to change in that game. Nobody lost their job over it. But I just don't like when referees insert themselves into games. And with the playoffs coming up, I would hate for that to be a playoff game and a player being ejected out of a game that changes the directions of a whole franchise. Because when people lose in the playoffs, franchises change. GMs could lose their jobs. Head coaches could lose their job. OCs losing their jobs. And we got to look at these people as more than just players and coaches. When they lose their jobs or they get traded or they get cut, there's a family attached to them. Right? There's a family that now has to move. Kids are changing schools. Families are uprooting their lives. So please, to my NFL and even my NBA referees, don't insert yourself into the games. There's times where you're gonna call some shit, and I'll be right there and be like, yeah, well, that motherfucker deserved that shit. You know what I mean? But that wasn't it. And y'all could have had a conversation, and y'all could have just gave that man a warning, and then kept it pushing. I'm gonna leave it at that. I just don't like seeing that, right? And with the playoffs coming up, I would hate to see something like that happen. My last rant goes into the same thing, not the same thing, but it kind of piggybacks that. NFL and coaching, the NFL coaching and GM, right? We all know that the general manager and the head coach are pretty much tied together, and the head coach and the quarterback is tied together, right? When you are the general manager, you're the architect, right? You put this shit together. Whether the coach is helping you or not, your name's on the line for the team that 53-man roster, you put that together. That head coach, potentially, you're the one that hired that head coach, right? One thing I can't stand is when a general manager puts a shithole team together, and then the NFL coach is the one that has to try to put something of a good product out there, not even including injuries that's happening, not even holdouts that's happening that you're creating and all that stuff because you don't want to pay certain players and whatever the case may be. And you're going to do some trades that I'm probably not going to agree with. And because you think that we need those extra draft picks or whatever the fucking case may be, you hold that fucking bag. I'm tired of seeing coaches get fired over the fucking mistakes of a general manager. Now, if the coach sucks, the coach sucks. But if the product that you gave the coach is hot garbage on a summer's night, you got to give that man a fucking chance. And with the NFL, I seem as though like you're trying to catch a fucking lightning in a bottle in one swoop. Sometimes it takes time to develop certain things. You're not going to get a Vrabel that's going to come off the street and change a whole organization and go from 4-12 to 14-13, 14-3. It doesn't happen like that all the time. Liam Cohen, with the Jaguars, I think that's his second year. A lot of these coaches that are doing good, they're either in their first, even if they're in their first year, like a Mike Vrabel, there was things already in place. The quarterback was in place. There was a key defensive person in place. And I'm going to use New England as an example, right? We had the quarterback. We had the defensive player in Gonzo, right? We had the cap. We had the room to go spend the money. And they went and spent the money in the right ways. They brought the players that the coach said, hey, go get me this and watch what I do. And that team went out there. They spent the money. They got the players that he requested, and you went from 4-12 to 14-13. But if the general manager goes against what Mike Vrabel's asking for, and doesn't bring in the Miltons of the world, doesn't go and get the offensive tackle that's going to help out the quarterback, doesn't go get a Stephon Diggs, doesn't go get some of these other wide receivers that came in, doesn't draft well. That 4-12, maybe you win an extra 2 games. But what you gonna do then? You're gonna turn around and fire that man if he doesn't keep excelling. You put this team together. You should be accountable. You shouldn't be able to turn around and fire a coach or organization fire a coach. And I'm going to the Raheem Morris situation. Raheem Morris, give him another year. Let's figure this shit out, man. Like, we quick to fire the coaches, but the general managers and the staff, the player personnel people, they get to say. And again, I'm not here to be firing nobody. I don't like people losing their jobs unless you suck. And when I say you suck, I'm not saying that you're the worst thing that ever happened. It's just that situation was not good. That's why some of these people, I know you work your ass off to become a head coach, but not every head coach position is meant for you. We got 7 jobs that are open right now. 7 jobs. If you remember, 7 jobs are open right now. The Ravens, the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Browns, the Falcons, the Giants, and the Titans. You know what job I don't fucking want? The Titans. Somebody got to get the job, though. But just know, when you go take that Titans job, you have maybe 2 years to figure it out. With a quarterback you didn't even draft. And you probably want another quarterback, but you're not going to go get it because now you're stuck to this number 1 draft pick. The Giants is a good position. I don't mind the Giants situation. They got the quarterback in place. They got the running back in place in Scatterboo when he does come back healthy. The Falcons, that's an amazing position to be in. If I'm John Harbaugh, I know I'm the number 1 candidate out here. I'm trying, give me the Falcons job, or go. If I'm Brian Daboll, I'm telling my agent, yo, call the Giants back up. I had success over there. Let me go get with Jackson Dart. Oh wait, that's where you got fired from. Yeah, Brian Daboll. He's looking to see if Sean McDermott's gonna get fired or not. But I'm looking at like the Raiders situation. You got money, you got picks, you got young players, but the organization, you've been in flux for a while, right? The Browns situation, the same thing. You got the players, you got the defense. I think you got some money to play around with, but you still got the Watson deal that's sitting over your head. Not every job is created equal. But at the same time, when you out here, these 7 people that's going to hire these people, we can't turn around and fire the people 2 years later. Because they didn't turn it around and like Mike Vrabel and them did. Give these coaches a chance. And to the fan bases, you play a part in it also. You know what I mean? Like, give it a chance to develop into something. Because even as happy as I am right now in New England, does that mean we're going to be 14-3 next year? Are we going to be 12-5 next year? As long as we're competitive and you see, like, oh, damn, we lost more games this year, but, man, we was in those games. We're back in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It ain't like we're going to turn around and go back to 4-12. That being said, I'm not a component of people losing their jobs. Referees, stop inserting yourself and creating more drama for the highlight reels on these networks and people like me talking about how you change the outcome of a game, especially this starting tonight. College football playoff starts tonight, and we're playing football all the way through Monday. Let's have these great games and not have to talk about a referee took a game from a team that could potentially change the outcomes of that. These general managers and owners and all that stuff. Listen, I know I'm not the one fronting the bill. I know it's not me sitting in the seat, and it's easy to point the blame at somebody else and fire them, right? But Raheem Morris is a prime example of somebody that should not be fired. If Aaron Glenn could keep his job after what I just saw with the New York Football Giants, then Raheem Morris should have got another year himself. With that being said, if you liked what you heard or want to debate me, first you got to subscribe to Please Excuse My Balls, like the episode, follow us on social media, and tell me where I went wrong. Till then, go debate yourself. I said what I said, and I meant it. Peace.